All of the current headlines concern the major dollar pairs and, of course, gold. As we can see over the weekend, a lot of news has come out on Trump and on Greenland. This is currently the overall headline of the market. Bloomberg is full of it, and it is currently causing a lot of volatility and, for example, an overall pullback here on EURUSD back in towards its overall area of supply. So, guys, not much has changed here for EURUSD. The plan still remains the same as last week. As we can see, we had an overall impulse here in towards the highs after seeing a pullback and taking out final end boss liquidity here underneath this low. We saw a market structure shift from a bearish into a bullish market. The market has then ever since retraced into the 0.5 fib. It has taken out 2 points of liquidity point number 1, liquidity point number 2. So now we need the final kind of piece of confluence, and that is adding in an area of demand. Now, as we can see here to our left, there's no clear area of demand. So what do I then do? Well, I wait for a strong point of liquidity to get taken out, and then I wait for the bullish confirmation, which would be a break of the overall order flow here, a retest, and then an overall next impulse in towards the highs. Other than that, EURUSD otherwise remains bearish, where we can just expect another impulse here in towards the downside within this area of supply that is currently still in control. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, then you can also very clearly see here that we have clear areas of supply, with this buy for the sell being the previous area of supply that pushed the market down. Here again, buy for the sell, and now we're just retesting that area. Obviously now within this overall, let's say, impulse in towards the downside, we had this point of liquidity, this point, and this point. So now we're currently just reacting to the very first point of liquidity, which can obviously cause another impulse in towards the downside. Though we will have to see how the markets react today. It is all a little bit uncertain. Again, these markets are heavily driven by fundamentals. Obviously, uncertainty in the world is not ideal. And that is also why over the weekend, for example, EURUSD gapped down. If you look at the EURUSD Oanda chart, you can clearly see here that there was a overall gap in towards the downside. Also, if you look at, for example, an NZDCHF, which I'm actually in a swing long position on, this also gapped in towards the downside, where we saw a very strong push in towards the lows of around 25 pips, not too much, but 0.5% down. On the basis that the Swiss pairs, that the dollar, and that the yen gained some strength overnight. So EURUSD wise, what is now the plan? The plan overall is to still aim and wait for longs. However, we will only take a long position once we get bullish confirmation, which would be a break of the overall order flow, and then we can look for the next long position. Currently, I'm not interested in shorts, despite the overall order flow, which I just highlighted as well here on the 4-hour time frame, being bearish. Just because, simply said, we're in discount pricing and the overall market structure is bullish. Therefore, my shorts focus lies only on GBPUSD, which I find a nicer overall setup, as the higher time frame on that pair is currently still bearish. Going into the dollar index is reacting so far to this overall liquidity high here. For the rest, if I'm very honest, guys, the dollar index is just one and all consolidation, not too much of interest for myself. And not something that I'm putting too much focus on at the moment. When the lower time frame is messy, look at the higher time frame, and what do we see on the higher time frame? We see again a lot of mess. Overall, we have obviously this supply zone currently here on the weekly time frame that is currently in control, and I'll just be focusing on that weekly area of supply. And only once we break that supply zone, that is the moment that I'll really be looking for some more upside here. From the dollar index. Okay. Moving on, that is the moment that I really do expect a lot more upside from the dollar index if that supply zone were to break. So that's why I would be slightly cautious with EURUSD, with us being in that weekly supply. For the rest, not much. It's relatively slow, because on the other side, obviously, we had the breakup, and then here we had the overall breakdown. So that would mean that this is a swing high, this is a swing low. This here is a relatively strong high because it liquidated this high here to the left. So now you're just getting into a point of liquidity. So it could sell off once the daily change of character happens, then maybe some more downside again. But otherwise, until then, just focus only on more upside for now. GBPUSD, we are still in a short position. With GU, what are we seeing? We're seeing some of a little bit of a pullback, but at the same time just consolidation, because if we look at the daily candle, you can see it's pretty much just a doji candle so far. Obviously, we have seen a double fractal breakdown here on the daily, and the difference with GP or with EURUSD and GPUSD is that that GPUSD, excuse me, is swing bearish. So we had here the breakdown. Here we had another breakdown. Here we've taken out final end boss liquidity, swing high, swing low. Final liquidity got taken. We've seen a double fractal structure shifting towards the downside. So that's why I'm currently still in a short position. I also shared this inside Discord. So yeah, no need to ask for the screenshots. You can just go into Discord and see it there. We were up around 1% last night, and now has ever since started retracing slightly. So I'll monitor what happens here, and yeah, let's keep an eye on it. For the rest, I mean, it is nice that we gap down, because now we've created a new kind of like low. That means that above this high there is liquidity resting. So who knows, if we take out that high, then maybe we can look for some more shorts again, kind of like what I mentioned last week. So let's monitor that and yeah, see what happens throughout today. It's a little bit uncertain again, very fundamental macro driven market at the moment, not really too much, just purely technicals. So we really need to keep an eye on what happens in relationship to the United States dollar and to Greenland. For myself, the more clear setup is just gold longs as opposed to trading these major dollar pairs. That's why I'm also mainly trading gold at the moment. But I do expect GBPUSD to drop down lower, and GBPUSD is my favorite pick ultimately for a short position, and hence why I'm still in. And I'll be looking still for more downside. If we do end up hitting our stop loss, then I'll just be looking for more shorts from this upper area of supply, and that will then be my other short position once I see a bearish structural shift happen inside. Now, going into AUDUSD, we will be able to see here on AUDUSD that we have recovered significantly since last night. If we look here, we can see that, again, we saw somewhat of a push down last night, but now we're just pushing up. To me, AUDUSD is just very consolidative and a little bit stuck. It's not really moving anywhere, and you would still be stuck in the same position since the beginning of January, probably. Moving sideways, you need to break out of this sideways range, and only then would I be looking to get into a position. Other than that, not focusing too much on it. Obviously, the overall market structure remains bullish between this low here and this high, but the overall price action itself is consolidative. So when you have these kind of situations, then just wait for the breakout to happen and then look to get involved with longs. Yeah, other than that, nothing too interesting on AU. Now, moving on into NU, we can see that NZDUSD is recovering pretty significantly. I'm still waiting on this pair. This pair is also relatively consolidative, with the daily area of immediate supply still being in control, which is this kind of like a buy up for the sell down. With that supply zone in control, I'm still looking for a potential, let's say drop, because I want it to drop to the lowest low and then look for the long. If it does break out, then I will be happy to look for longs again. But I'm still favoring a push down towards these final lows and in towards this demand zone to then look for a long position from there. AUDUSD, by the way, if it does break in towards the downside, it could be a nice short position, as we do have a nice so-called ascending wedge / channel with the 1, the 2, the 3. This is often a signal that, let's say volume is getting lower and that there's a potential drop in upcoming. This would be nice if we see the sell-off, then the retest, and then another sell-off in towards the downside towards this low. But let's see what happens on that side. NZDUSD, I'm only really focusing on longs, but it would need to go a little bit lower before I can get involved. And then, of course, we have the USD pairs and gold. So USDCAD is still stuck. It's kind of like the story that I've been telling you guys already since the past, let's say, week or two. I'm not a big fan of trading these kind of like areas of price. Price is a little bit stuck. So I'm not a big fan of just getting involved at these levels. So I won't be trading this at the moment. What I would prefer is that, let's say, hey, I want to get into a long position. Then I would just use this as liquidity. Wait for that to get taken. And then for the next real move in towards the upside, for example, to happen, instead of getting involved within, let's say, this little 4-hour, very, very weak order flow. Because every single time, and what I mean with weak is like every single time you break the high, retrace, break the high, retrace, break the high, retrace, so bullish momentum is not really there. So I don't really like getting involved with these kind of positions, though. Just keep your eyes open, but it's just nothing really for myself. USDCHF makes sense to look for potential sells. We're currently seeing that the market is somewhat let's say, ascending corrective. And what I mean with somewhat ascending corrective, I mean that we're squeezing in towards the highs here, where we can see the clear kind of like ascending overall wedge here. Focusing on the higher time frame being the daily, though the daily is still very consolidative. Preferably, I would take at this high here, which is the high of this descending trend line, though I do take into consideration the fact that we have somewhat of a supply zone here. And then next to that, we also have an internal little liquidity high over here. We're squeezing in towards that supply zone. We've taken out significant liquidity here with the 1, 2, 3, which is a squeezing pattern. So if we do see somewhat of, a little bit more momentum maybe, then we could say, hey, here we have the breaker structure. This is internal liquidity. And then on the retest of that internal liquidity, we could maybe later this week look for another short position. So that's a potential position there. USDJPY is still bullish. I did a kind of like a extensive breakdown inside Discord why I'm still bullish on USDJPY. The only kind of like risk for USDJPY is currency intervention. Overall, I'm looking for a long position. Is it the cleanest of pairs? No, because why? Well, we still have so much liquidity open all the way down here with, let's say, these lows. So it's hard to kind of like already say, hey, where's USDJPY going to head up higher from? Let's monitor what it does around these ascending lows. Let's keep an eye on that. And then once we see some bullish momentum return, then maybe we could get into some longs again. But I'll be having to monitor that. I'm not a big fan of these ascending lows and already going long. I would prefer for us to take out this low as well. And then see kind of like the 1 hour shift in market structure and only then look for longs. Other than that, USDJPY is a little bit complicated price action wise, just because the impulse up is very unclear. So you would really need to wait for like an order flow shift to happen here before you could get involved with any potential long opportunities. Then of course we have gold. Gold, I'm looking for longs still and expecting further upside. Any potential retest of this overall, let's say, order block is just another long position. I already opened another long position on market open last night. So I'll be holding on to that, and for the rest, I'm just expecting us to push up higher towards 4,800 very, very soon. So looking just for this to continue pushing up higher, and let's see if we can get a push up higher this week. Maybe also just focus on, let's say, using this as little internal liquidity. Ideally, you would break above this high first, and then, for example, take out that low and then go. That is the classic gold move that I really like trading overall myself. That's that, and let's keep our eyes open, looking for longs on gold, and let's see if we can get a long. That's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Wish you all a fantastic Monday, and any questions, just let me know inside Discord. Thanks for watching, and speak soon.